Hello and welcome to episode 189 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just a couple regular guys drinking some regular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, usually the online client MTG Arena, but Zach, not tonight.
Not tonight. All right, folks, we got some big news. We have, since the start of our podcast, basically, we have had the Drunken Vorthos episodes where we drink lots of beer, usually cheap beer. We did a whole silver series looking for like the cheapest like lagers, essentially. The great camping beers, ones you can drink all day. For story time, essentially, where we talk just about the actual story of Magic, not about the cards, and we called it Drunken Vorthos. However, we're changing things up a little bit, and we're doing a very similar thing, but we've rebranded it, Jeff. And what's our rebrand?
We present to you the first episode of Lore and Loggers.
That's right. So with our Drunken Vorthos episodes, we kind of went through and talked about each individual chapter and told the story. And with Lore and Loggers, we've decided we want to take a more laid-back approach, and we're kind of doing like a book club discussion where we're just talking about what happened, but not necessarily explaining everything that's going on. So this is a change, but I think it's for the better, and I'm very excited for it. It's gonna be a good night.
My favorite parts of the Drunken Vorthos were when we went on tangents and talked about what we actually thought or like reactions we had to certain things,
Exactly.
rather than just sort of walking through step by step what happened. Because in the Magic stories, there's a lot of stuff that just like happens, and you're like,
and then
okay.
this happened. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we get to kind of skip all those things. But it does mean more spoilers for those who have not actually read the stories yet. But I think it'll be useful for everyone. But I think it's just going to be a lot more fun. But with that, Jeff, obviously we're doing lore and loggers. So what's on tap tonight? What are we drinking?
I have a smorgasbord of stuff. I actually,
Whoa.
I didn't realize till now.
Oh, you already poured your beer. What is that? What are you drinking?
It's an ale.
It's an ale. Oh my God, Jeff! For the first lore and loggers, you're drinking an ale. What are you doing?
Well, it's what I have on tap. I have a red ale.
Okay.
Shout out to Ryan for hooking me up with that.
Sure.
And
Oh my God.
I recently got it all set up. So when I first got it, it was just every pour was like all head. I had to wait for it to settle. I've just been like going through the process of decarbonating that keg. And so I really wanted one of these frosty bad boys, and I was like, it's the perfect time for it. Now I'm sitting here realizing, yep, that's not a lager. But we could just pretend it is. But I do have an actual lager here, Moosehead.
Okay, all right. There we go. You could have just led with that. You could have just picked up the Moosehead and didn't even say anything.
No, everyone would know this is not Moosehead.
That's true.
All of our viewers. Yeah.
All right. Well, I wanted to pull a Jeff because I did bring Hacker Shore, which is what we did deem as one of the best silver beers. So I will be cracking this open and getting ready for this, as it's a filtered lager. We prefer the unfiltered lagers personally, but this one's still quite nice.
Yeah.
But before we get into everything, Jeff, we do have some pretty important Magic news. So the Arena Direct events, the prize structure is actually changing a little bit. But I think it's for the better, honestly. Now, it is changing so that you need to get 7 wins to get your booster boxes, as opposed to 6. However, they are spreading the actual prizes out a little bit more. So you get better gem prizes earlier, and then if you get to 6 wins when there's a play boosters, you get 1 box, and then 7 wins is 2 boxes, as opposed to either all the boxes or none of the boxes kind of thing. So it's a little bit closer to what the price structure looks like for the Arena Opens. As far as like, you get 6 wins, you get 1,000 or whatever, and then 7 you get 2,000. And so I kind of like this. They're realizing that like these events are very popular, and they want to make it a bit more welcoming to people, like less cutthroat and brutal. They're just spreading the prizes out a little bit more, which I think is good.
Yeah, it could be. It depends how much I'd have to. I think I'd have to feel it. I'd have to like play in one of these, kind of do only mediocre and see how much I get back and like how I feel about that.
Totally.
The whole like 7 and 6, obviously that is much worse
Yes.
than what it was previously. But if
Hmm.
yeah, the main thing of these is like you basically get nothing. It's all or nothing. But
Hmm.
previously, you either got the boxes or you got like nothing. You're out your entry fee.
Hmm.
So I think in general, I'm in favor of spreading it out if it's reasonable. If they just kind of like dished out 100 gems here and there, but they made it much harder to win the boxes, essentially, that sucks. So I'm assuming they did it proportionately and so that, you know, they're still taking home exactly the same amount. So
Basically.
I'm sure it's more reasonable, but
Yeah, they are getting slightly more expensive. So they were 5,000 gems, they're now 6,000. But the first,
okay.
instead of wins 0 through 3 is nothing, it's now at 3 wins, you get 2,700 gems back and 8 packs. So you do get paid out a good chunk earlier. And in the old structure, when you got 4 wins, you got 2,000 gems. So this is more gems. Obviously, the entry fee is a bit higher, but you also get a bunch of packs and stuff. And if you miss out on the boxes, 5 wins is 8,100 gems and 24 packs. So it's still like a
Okay,
bunch of
that's pretty good.
arena currency, even if you miss out on like the actual physical currency. That I'm only talking about like they have a bunch of different price structures depending on if you're going for collector boxes or play booster
Yeah, sure.
boxes or universes beyond boxes and all that stuff. But I think that's pretty nice. Like that seems good to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, that seems good. I mean, trying to remember, but my sense is that you didn't make money on 5 wins previously, or
No,
if
you broke even
you
on
broke
five
even.
wins.
Right? Yeah, that's so harsh. So
That's so harsh.
this is better, I
Yeah.
think.
And this is like 5 wins, you make gems.
Right.
So that's awesome. And then four
And packs,
wins,
like that's a lot of
yeah,
packs.
24 packs. So this seems great to me. I'm really happy with this. It's obviously still a really steep cost to just play in it, but you're kind of these events are shooting the moon basically. You're trying to win the dream, and it incentivizes you to play more of them, which I think is good. So I'm happy with this
Yeah.
change.
Is there a break even on this one? Is it like 4 wins? Does that get you even?
4 wins almost breaks you even. 4 wins
Okay,
is
so
like
it's kind of like
you're
4 wins in draft, where it's
yeah.
like you're probably happy with that, even though you didn't technically break even on gems.
Yeah, if you're playing the play booster one, which is the one I'm most interested in, you
Yeah.
4 wins is like 5,400 gems and
Yeah.
16
Okay.
packs. So you're basically up 16 packs and you lost 600 gems. That's how it evens
You
out.
get
So,
90% of your gems back plus some packs.
yeah,
That's
seems
okay.
pretty good. Seems pretty good. Almost the gravy train. Doesn't really feel like it, but it's nice. Anyway, that's just an important thing to note if you're going looking at those things in the future. It
The gravy train at home.
A gravy train at home, yes.
Yeah.
Also, just to note, as we go into Final Fantasy and everything in the future, those Arena Direct events will be more expensive because those paper products are actually more expensive. So keep that in mind. That will be a thing. So yeah, don't get I don't know, surprised by that. But we have more news that's more impactful than the Arena Directs, and it happens to have things to do with Universes Beyond, specifically the Spider-Man set that's coming up. So if you're unaware, all of Magic is now like 50-50 Universes Beyond and actual in Universes Within is what they're saying, Magic sets. And we have a Spider-Man set that's coming out in September of this year, which is all Spider-Man themed, which depends, you like it if you like Spider-Man. A lot of people don't if they don't like Spider-Man. That's just kind of how these Universes Beyond sets are going to go. The one thing about this is that the licensing issues with it, Marvel in particular, this company already has a card game that's digital, right? Marvel Snap is a digital card game. And it seems as though they don't want to have two digital card games at the same time, or there's some issues with this and Marvel Snap, and so Magic's not allowed to have Marvel stuff digitally in Magic Online or Magic Arena, which means that they are still bringing the set to Arena because they need to have it in standard, like they need to have this product. And so they are changing every single card to be universes within. So the entire set will be a universes within set that only exists digitally. It will not be in paper.
Yeah, that's super. This is so weird, but pretty awesome, I think, for us because we just get like new Magic sets. Don't have to worry that they were designed secretly to be Spider-Man cards. Like,
I mean, yes and no, I think, because if you think about it, the set is made. We're still getting Final Fantasy and like Avatar, the last Airbender. So like at this point, I'm kind of like, if Spider-Man's in the mix, I don't really care that much for Arena. I'm just like, sure, whatever. Now that we're not really going to have Spider-Man, it's just going to be so weird to be like, I'm drafting this Spider-Man set, but it's not Spider-Man. It's actually Magic themed. But none of the artwork or names really fully fit. We'll see how great they do with this. But like, obviously there's going to be a bunch of different versions of Spider-Man. There's like, and what are they going to do? Like, are we going to have like a new legendary spider character that's but not base green? It's going to be like what are they going to do? They're going to be a legendary creature that they make up in the Magic universe that's just kind of like a sticker on top of it to be like, yeah, this is the new character we totally meant to make, and they're just all the different versions of Spider-Man, and it's very obvious. I don't know, it seems strange.
I'm kind of hoping it's all old, like they create no new characters. It's all old characters.
That would be cool.
Just like
it would definitely
like a Halloween party. Like they're all going.
Wait, if it would that would be pretty funny. Like it would be close to Halloween, like Universes Beyond, but it's like, or Within, but it's like Thalia as Spider-Man, kind of.
Yeah, just wearing like a cheap Spider-Man
thing. That is funny. But anyway, I really, as with all these Universes Beyond things, we're going to have to wait until we actually see the stuff to really be able to talk about them.
I think they're going to do a pretty good job of it. Like, part of the whole Universes Beyond thing is, one of the things I appreciated about it is them using design to sort of do neat things to reference these characters, right? It's like,
right.
Oh, what is the design of Spider-Man going to look like? I'll look at it and be like, that's cute because he can spin a web any size, or whatever they like come up with. That's going to be weird when it's not on a Spider-Man card. It's like they do this cute design that's supposed to reference something in the Spider-Man universe that now is just reskinned to something random in the Magic universe.
Exactly.
But I'm gonna have fun. Like, I'm gonna try. I don't know how possible this will be, given like what spoiler season's gonna look like and all that stuff. I'm gonna try to not look at the Spider-Man cards and like guess what the flavor inspiration was for the Magic themed cards.
Yeah,
I think that could be fun.
It could be fun. It will be extremely confusing. I also just imagine like,
well, I'm just not going to interact with paper, so I'm going to be like,
that's true. But imagine like watching the Pro Tour. You're watching the World Championship. It's around like October. You don't know what any of the cards are. Like, you're like, I've been playing this set like nonstop, and I'm looking at a draft pool, and I have no idea what any of the draft cards are because they're all Spider-Man cards. The thing about it is that I personally want to continue to bring like all the different groups of Magic together, and this is pushing them apart.
This definitely works against something they've been working really hard to do recently, which is coalesce the
digital
arena folk, the digital folk, and the paper folk. So this
And
definitely drives a wedge there because, like, even if you buy the same standard deck to go play in a paper tournament, all the cards look different, assuming you play any
exactly.
number of
Well, this is
Spider-Man cards.
also all of the welcome decks that are coming for like new standard rotation are Spider-Man decks. Like,
Right.
and so they're going to be welcoming new players in with Spider-Man cards, but they could go on Arena. They can't play Spider-Man cards because of a licensing issue that they didn't work out.
This feels like
Like
something Marvel like threw at them late in the game or
it
something.
or it seems like they kind of like, oh, we'll figure it out. We'll figure
They
it out.
thought
And
they would
just,
hammer it out, and they
they
just
never
never
did.
did. I feel like I hear kind of stuff like this about Marvel all the time, though, about how they're very picky about
Well,
their
Disney.
like legal and copyright,
Yeah.
intellectual property stuff. So
It's true. I mean, like the fact that they got to do Marvel in the first place seems kind of crazy.
right, we were all kind of surprised by that actually.
Yeah. Just
Because like, doesn't
because,
Marvel have their own stuff going on? Like,
yeah. I mean, like they used to have a card game back in the day, Marvel versus System, which admittedly
right,
wasn't very good. But I liked it. I liked Marvel a lot at the time, so I had a bunch of those cards. I had my Fantastic Four deck, and I thought it was cool. But I just goldfished with myself because nobody played, because nobody knew what that
right.
was, or at least nobody I knew. But anyway, I don't know.
Marvel Snap is pretty good though.
It is good. I do enjoy that game.
For what it's trying to do. It's doing a good job at that. It's just like it's not really competing with Magic in my mind because it's such a different
Thing.
experience. Like it's
Yeah.
about playing like a 2 minute game, 1 minute
Exactly.
game, not about these like long drawn out, war,
Kind of
like
wars, yeah, attrition wars, card
attrition
advantage.
stuff that Magic.
Yeah, all that
gets
stuff
into.
doesn't really matter in Marvel Snap, which is cool, and that's why the game is really interesting. But anyway, that's big news that we don't get
Yeah,
any
that's wild.
Spider-Man.
That feels like
And
something went wrong
yeah,
down in the pipeline there. And
like there are two camps of like being happy. Oh, sick! I don't have to see any Spider-Man cards in Arena. But I'm kind of now in the camp of I wanted to play some fucking Spider-Man, dude. Like I was like ready for it now. I'm like slowly getting on the Universes Beyond thing and being like, you know what? If it's gonna happen, let's go for it. And this just feels like a weird left turn. So I was not expecting this. Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping this like shows them that there's more to think about here on the building with everyone else's intellectual
Stuff.
property that because I think they kind of went very gung ho on a few early successes. We're like, let's just go in all in on this. I'm hoping this is kind of like a bit of a wake up call that like, hey, there's more complexities to this
Yeah.
than you took into account.
Also, this
And-
isn't this is not the only Marvel set that's lined up. Like we have more Marvel sets in the pipeline.
right. Is it going to get solved before then? Is
No,
this just
I don't
a
think so.
forever thing?
I think
Like,
this is their solution. Like this is just
Right.
every Marvel thing is going to be different. Honestly, what they should do is they should just make they should just remake Marvel stories. Like literally,
Yeah.
there should be a character who's
Right.
like Peter Parker.
Yeah.
It's like some kid, his parents died, and then at some point he gets bitten by this magic spider or magic whatever, and then turns
Yeah.
into that version. And they literally do the exact same story, but they just like make it magic, like skinned,
Yeah.
and be like, we're stealing everything. Like we're not even pretending.
Beatus Paccius.
Yeah, Beatus Paccius. And make sure we have Bruce Campbell on a bunch of cards. We could probably get him. That would be fine. They don't own Bruce Campbell. We get Bruce Campbell. That'd be fine.
Yeah, we could definitely get Bruce. Anyways, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe it means they'll realize it's just easier to work with your own intellectual property.
They might. They've
Sometimes.
through this.
But
So anyway, I was really looking forward to a card on Arena called "It's Pizza Time," and we're not going to get one of those. So makes me sad. Anyway, I didn't think I was going to be sad I wouldn't get Spider-Man on Arena, but I am. So my feelings are now showing that I'm interested in this, I guess. So
yeah.
well, there it is, folks. Anyway, Jeff, let's stop talking about Universes Beyond and talk about the magic story for Tarkir Dragonstorm. Oh, what a doozy.
It was a story.
It was a story.
Um,
It was a story I read.
yes, I
Yeah.
read. Well, I guess it was 7 stories that I read.
Yes.
Where do we want to start on this? So I have some thoughts, but they're a bit meandering. There are parts I liked, parts I didn't like. Do we want to start big picture?
I think we could kind of do big picture. I also think just like a brief summary of essentially what happened would be helpful as we kind of dive through certain things.
I think that would be helpful for me because
Yes.
what happened in
Yeah.
this story?
There were 7 chapters, and basically we are on Tarkir, which is, of course, our dragon plane. Spoilers ahead for all those who haven't listened to or read these episodes. And our main characters are like Narset and Elspeth. And Elspeth we already saw in like Aetherdrift trying to fight the dragons, and recently there's been all these dragon storms all over the multiverse opening up, and just dragons are pouring out because we don't know why. Well, we kind of know why, because in the first chapter we get this whole, there's like a story explaining why, or like what happened to Tarkir. There's like this big revolution against them. So I never really read. Did you read the Tarkir like original stories at all? Did you know much about them?
No, this was all news to me.
Yeah. So like I knew in original Tarkir, like Khans of Tarkir, it's basically like there's a world where they used to have dragons, but there aren't any dragons anymore. And then Sarkin is obsessed with dragons. He goes back in time in Fate Reforged, changes the course of existence, like frees Ugin or something. That's what happens. Ugin's like bound by hedrons or something. Frees Ugin. Ugin comes back, and because of that, the dragons now rule, and they never went extinct because he fights off Nicol Bolas from killing all the dragons, which is what Nicol Bolas did at some point, I think, maybe. I know that Nicol Bolas like tried to kill all his siblings. He did kill all his siblings. So that was, he wanted to be like the most powerful dragon because he was the physically smallest one. That was part of his story arc. But anyway, so all the dragons are back on Tarkir. So when Sarkin gets back, the Khans are no longer there, and the dragons that are 2-color pairs are in power. And one thing that this story kind of mentioned was that like the Khans did not flourish when the dragons were around. It was like what was really cool about it, actually, this is something I did enjoy, was that I know I said I was going to do a summary about the story, but it's too late. It's already done. They were talking about how, so let's say like the Abzan, their dragon was Dramoka, and Dramoka is like a green-white dragon, and Abzan is green-white-black. And the thing that Dramoka really hated about the Abzan was that they cared about their ancestors, and like kind of the death was part of their I don't know, clan. And Dramoka hated that. And it was interesting because that's the black part that's missing from this dragon. And so through that, and all the dragons, like the clans did not have a good time with any of the dragons. Besides Narset seemed to like Ojutai, but besides, there's a lot of Jeskai who didn't like Ojutai.
Narset was
specifically, I think.
Yeah. So, yeah, a couple of thoughts. This was the part I didn't know, that basically I just kind of thought it was like, the dragons are the leaders of the clans. But no, they were more like tyrants, or like sort of a
Warlords,
dictatorship
kind of. Yeah,
relationship. For example, like, Kolagon, I think they had struck a truce. The Mardu had like struck some sort of truce with the Kolagon dragons, but the Kolagon dragons just didn't really care that much and just ate them anyways, or whatever. Like, it was pretty rough.
Yeah. Same with like the Temur one with
Atarka.
Also loved eating the Temur people.
Right. So the dragons were just like eating the Temur, which I did not get from the cards in Fate Reforged or Dragons of Tarkir.
Yeah.
At all. So that was kind of cool to see. But yeah, Narset was like Ojutai's favorite student, essentially. I think basically everyone else hated Ojutai,
Yeah,
but
I think so.
Narset, because she was the chosen one, has this weird like I know he was a bad dude, but like also he liked me,
And like gave me special treatment and stuff,
and
I
I
guess.
liked being
Yeah.
noticed or being special.
And she was younger and
Relationship with
everything.
him, yeah, exactly. So he shaped a lot of her learning and taught her some real stuff. Like he taught
Totally.
her like
He
a lot
seemed
of
he seems like the best one, honestly. Like
yeah.
from
He
our
was the least
perspective.
shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the least
From
eating of
the
the
story as
people.
told by Narset.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we skip all that stuff. So basically, this really interesting story about these dragons who also I just want to point out like what is it? Zurgo and Ojutai are paired up in March of the Machine. That's like a card that's together,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But like those characters are not befriending each other, right?
According to what we learned now,
It's like that's
that's
insane.
outrageous.
That's
Yeah.
outrageous. So the fact that that card exists is crazy to me.
I guess that was the point, though. Like
It
unlikely
was,
pairs coming together to fight
it's
Phyrexia.
it's true. But anyway, after the Phyrexians came, all the cons were like, you know what? Let's get rid of these dragons. They suck. And to do that, like Darset was part of this, and they started these dragon storms. This is how dragons are born. They don't just like they aren't just birthed. They like basically fall out of the sky, and then they're just like there. And so
Yeah.
they did a ritual, and Narset was part of it to make new dragons that better represented the actual cons. And they came out and they killed the other dragons or something. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
The
Yeah.
spirit dragons, the ones that we have, Shiko and Baitor, and all the ones that we have in this set.
Yeah. Narset's at the bar when we're learning this, so
Yeah,
could be a some liberties taken with the telling of the story here, but
it's true.
yeah, they like shape these spirit dragons essentially into manifestations of themselves and go on and kill
The
the
actual
current
dragons,
overlords.
something like that. It was a little. I didn't exactly. It kind of seemed like there was a retelling of this story, and I feel like I kind of missed a little bit of it just because it seemed like a whole. It seemed like many chapters worth of stories that were just kind of like glazed over. Be like, it's the same thing with Aether Drift. It was like, this is a thing that happened. There's this revolution, but don't worry about that. We're talking about this other thing. That's basically what this was.
Yeah. I think
Like,
my
hey,
takeaway was they summoned some less shitty dragons to kill the shitty dragons,
yeah,
and in doing so, opened portals that created more dragons. But the dragons that get created are like essentially babies, so they're wild. Like they don't. Because the dragons that they know, they like talk to and shit. But
sure,
then these dragons that pop out of these things are feral, I guess. It's like
yeah, not
they're
as
not
intelligent,
domesticated.
but at the same time they do embody all the magic of the different
Yeah,
clans, which is great. Having all the different clans, like the biggest issue is that like you said, Atarka, right? Atarka is all savage because it's like green and red, but there's
yeah.
no intelligence. It's missing all the blue, and so that's
It's not
why
teamer, really.
it's just not teamer at all. And so then we get Ureni, which is actually a teamer dragon, which it works better for that clan, basically. So that's kind of the story behind all those like spirit dragons. Spoiler alert: we're not really gonna see them ever again. Like it just
Yeah,
doesn't happen.
yeah. The big spirit dragons that lead the clans, their part in this story is done.
Is done, and we do find out later that the dragon storms that are just kind of popping up everywhere is just because Ugin isn't there anymore. Because like
Yeah,
Ugin's just like not on Tarkir, and apparently Ugin was keeping like a lid on the dragon storms from just like happening all over the place.
yeah. So okay, can we talk about that then if we're gonna
Yeah.
jump there? Because that's literally the end. That's like the last paragraph or whatever. Well, I guess technically the last paragraph is even more
Or
frustrating, but
yeah.
the second to last paragraph. So they build up this like this has been over multiple sets where the story is like, whoa, why are these dragons popping up out of anywhere? Like, what a mystery! This is a like years of stories here and across the multiverse, like this is as big a mystery as it gets, right? Why are dragons popping up everywhere? And then at the end, we have this big raging battle that's going on, and then Ugin just kind of pops up, like kills the bad guy, and then says, "Oh yeah, those dragons are popping up because I got distracted. Whoops." And that's it. That's like that's the answer to the riddle at the end of all of that.
It was so.
I was just laughing. I was like,
what is happening?
That can't be it, though, right?" And I scrolled down, like, nope, it's over.
That's the end of this story.
That's it.
So the Ugin comes into the story, obviously a bit later. Essentially, Narset and Elspeth are trying to figure out all these different things are going on. Johnny's there for some reason, and we didn't really.
Why wasn't Johnny there?
He's not even on a card. Like, I don't even understand why he's here.
I literally was like, is it Johnny in this? But isn't he a planeswalker? No. There's no.
Yeah, he's just.
And he's just
there.
being such a downer, man. Like,
I know.
They just introduced this like emo character for no reason.
Everyone's a downer in the story, to be fair. Just like
That's
everyone's true. A downer. I definitely felt that. I will say that overall, this story, as far as like plot points, not great ones. Not really important. This is the filler. I thought this was the culmination of the entire dragon arc, whatever, Dragonstorm arc. I guess it technically is, except for it's just because the Dragonstorms are going to be finished after this because Ugin comes back. But
it turns out the Dragonstorms themselves were just filler, which we didn't necessarily realize because they mention it in every story.
Since Bloomborough. But essentially, they're trying to stop the normal things. I don't even know how we got to. They're just trying to figure out why the Dragonstorms are happening. They end up going through an omen path, and they find the meditation realm, which astute listeners will know that the meditation realm is a place where Nicol Bolas is being held captive since War of the Spark, which only Jace and Ugin knew about. Because Nicol Bolas didn't actually die in War of the Spark. Jace just made an illusion that made it look like he was dying while Ugin banished him to the meditation realm. And Ugin's been hanging out with him there ever since. But Jace didn't tell anyone and nobody else knew because they had a deal or whatever.
In my head, he was just like grappling him like jujitsu style.
Kind of, yeah.
Like, he had trapped here, bitch.
Yeah. And he had like chains as well. But like... Yeah, and the meditation realm is just like it's a plane that you can't really find unless you know it's there, and it isn't really reality. It's just like, what is it? It just kind of changes constantly. That's the issue with it. It's like
it didn't really make a ton of sense, to be honest.
Well,
but it's like your brain can't comprehend where it is or what it is or where you are.
I imagine it's like a white space. But like every time you try to like move, it kind of changes, and there's like stairs, and there's not stairs, or
right. When I think of a meditation realm, I think of like blank,
nothing, like just absolutely nothing. But this is like there's no way really in or out, except for the fact that they found a way in, and the reason they can find this is because there's omen paths now. That's the big thing. Where before there weren't omen paths, so you had to know it was there to go there, kind of. And anyway, I don't know if Ugin was here at some point, like training or something, or maybe Ugin made this plane. I actually don't really know the full extent.
I think he did. That sounds right. This has something to do with Ugin. I think he made it, and also he made it as his sort of hyperbolic time chamber kind of thing,
right.
And then realized it was a good spot to store or imprison Nicol Bolas. Mm-hmm. But I guess he had to be there the whole time. Despite the chains.
I think he did. Because
he got distracted from... I guess if he gets distracted, dragons just pop out everywhere.
I guess so. It is funny that like all the Dragonstorms started happening like way after Ugin's just been okay. So that's what happened. So Ugin's been trapped in the meditation realm with Nicol Bolas, keeping in there since War of the Spark. But Dragonstorms were like there's a lid on them until they decided to make a ritual to bring the Dragonstorms back to save themselves from the Khan thing. And because they did that to bring the Spirit Dragons, then all the other ones started popping up.
Yeah.
But of course, Ugin didn't know about that because he was far away. Even though he's kind of like a god-ish, he's very powerful. But in this spirit realm place, we do find like Jace is there with Lute, who he's using as like a map. And he wanted to get there because he decided that whatever, like he can fix everything. He can like, turn back time, basically.
That's the other thing. Like, this has also been, what, since Outlaws of Thunder Junction? The whole Jace storyline.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if it technically started with, like, Wilds of Eldraine, because there was, but, like, yes, Jace's villain arc, I guess started in MKM, because he was
and the whole
stealing stuff from Proft or whatever.
Right, MKM, jeez. And the whole, like, time he was some sort of evil genius, you know, super powerful with this great massive plan, and like the plan was so half baked at the end of the day. It was just like, what? That's what you did all this for? Because you were like, I'll just go to the meditation realm and undo everything. Like, how? Like, well, I'll just be in the meditation realm. I'll undo it.
Apparently the meditation realm have special abilities to like, I don't know, because it changes depending on your mind, the actual space. You could use it to change the course of history if you're strong enough. Turns out Jace is not strong enough. He can't. He even like steals Ugin's jewel or something from between his horns to give him power. And he kind of does it for a second, but it doesn't work. Ultimately, he just wants to, like, he's doing the same shit that Chandra was trying to do for Nissa. What is with all these fucking planeswalkers caring so much about making sure that their partners can have a spark again? Like, it's crazy.
Right.
That's literally
even Nebraska
right?
was like, dude, we have a life, you know, we have each other, we have our kid, let's just fucking live it.
And then he's like, no, I'm going to take my kid, I'm going to put him to sleep forever so I can read his mind and walk through the omen paths and know where the meditation realm is and try to give you your spark back. And she's like, I don't give a shit about my spark.
Yeah.
And he's like, we could save everybody's life. I can fix everything. Which I think, you know, as a like good guy turned villain, I think that's a totally fine thing of like, yeah, do anything necessary to like for the greater good or whatever. I get that. I buy that totally. But like, I not for a second thought that Jace was going to be able to do this. Like,
right. Like, I understand the motivation, but I just like the plan was so dumb at the end of the day. It's like, I'll just go there.
Jace
and
is dumb though.
Do everything.
He's always been dumb. So like, at least that still tracks. Like his character has always been kind of stupid, even though he's a mind mage.
It was just I felt let down by him being like, I'll just grab this and I'll undo everything somehow, and then it's like didn't work.
It quickly didn't work, and he also the meditation realm kind of collapsed in the process of this,
right?
And like they all had to like run away, and now he's gone, so we don't really know where Jace is, which. Sure. We'll meet him in the blind eternities, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, the last sentence says something about them, right? Like, it says, it's like in the beginning there was water, there was nothing.
Oh, right. I kind of skimmed over that.
Water, and then
honestly,
it basically alludes to like, dude, Jace is fine, because it says something about begins to coalesce into the shape of a blue cloak.
Oh, sure. Right. Yeah, well,
at the very
I know
end,
that he's not dead. Like, there's no way. And that's the other thing that was frustrating with this is that there's a battle with, like, Sarkin wants to be a dragon again. So he, like, sacrifices a dragon and eats its heart and turns into a dragon.
What was the point of this?
Because Tygam helped him do that. And they wanted to... I don't know, destroy a temple or something. It didn't really matter. It was just like, let's control the dragons. honestly, plot points not mattering doesn't bother me that much, just because that just happens in stories all the time, and you're just like, sure.
The thing is, this is 7 stories, and I don't think any of this mattered. Like, other than Jace's plan finally coming to fruition and not working, and him
That was the
just,
only
like,
thing that
exploding.
mattered.
Like, that's what happened, right? And it was 7 stories, and there were so many characters, and it's not like those characters got super well developed. Like, Johnny, I guess, stopped being like a moping, whiny bitch at the end of it, and helped out a little. But like,
Did
that
he
was his
though?
character arc, I guess. Yeah, he
Kind
like
of.
he came up and chopped that dragon's head off. That was
Guess
the
that's
thing that
true.
he did throughout the many,
The
many,
black
many times he appeared in this story for some
blobby
reason.
dragon.
Like, this dude
Yeah.
had like a full story worth of writing
Stuff.
just to himself, and he did not. He didn't grow. He didn't influence anything. He didn't like. Is the point to just like show us how sad he is? Because like it doesn't take. You don't need to. You don't need to
I mean,
drive the
like,
point home that hard.
the thing is that they're trying to show us how all these stories, they kind of want to show us how these different planes have changed, or how they're growing post March of
Yeah.
the Machine, right? And so every time we get to see another character that was affected by Fibresis or whatever, we have to talk about it and talk about them. But it is annoying, just like, we've seen Jace, right? Or we've seen other people, and they've gone through their stuff, and the other characters have to comment on it every time we see them. To be like,
Yeah.
last time I saw you, I stabbed you through the heart or whatever. And it's like, how are you not dead? Or blah, blah,
Right.
blah. Or
Every
how
time.
did you...
It's always the same thing, right? And this one was just awkward because it was like Elspeth and a Johnny, and for some reason they wrote that as awkward tension the whole time, and a Johnny being like mopey and sad.
Yeah, well, because Johnny was talking about how it wasn't... He wasn't saying that it was anybody else's fault. He felt all the feelings that he was feeling to kill Jaya in Dominaria United. That, like, he wanted to do that, and he was yearning to kill everyone else. And so he was seeing them for the first time again. This is... Did you... this feels like the Marvel movie, like, in between movies. Do you know what I mean? Did you watch
Right.
Black Panther 2?
No.
So the second Black Panther movie is very much like, well, the entire movie is just about Chadwick Boseman and his passing. It's like basically a love letter to him. And then the other half of the movie is just like, that part was good, but the other half was just, hey, here's a setup for the next movie, you know?
Right.
And that's what this story was. This was just a Marvel story. Like, they're already doing Marvel stuff right now, where we're just like, oh, this is just set up for the next one. Like, I paid my ticket, I brought a date to watch the movie that's just like the setup for the next one. And if you didn't
Yeah.
watch the first one and you're not going to watch the third one, like, why am I here, kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah. But
That's-
what it even was the setup from this one, right? Like,
Well, the setup was
I
the
think-
imaginary dragons from Duskborn, remember?
yeah. It's like, what?
That wasn't even a Dragonstorm. That was just like an imaginary dragon that Jace did or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so Sarkhan, weird, wants to turn back into a dragon. That part again, like that part,
Yeah.
him feeling weak and wanting his former glory back at the same.
I did like that. Like, I think that this is what I want to say about this story, just in general. I thought the writing, as far as like certain individual moments of how people were feeling, was executed well, right? Like, I did understand that, like, Sarkhan, I thought it was interesting talking about Sarkhan feeling like the shell of an egg, you know, so different forms of a dragon. It's like he's just like this little thing that's like wasted away, and he wants to reclaim his glory and his strength. Same with Johnny, also has a similar feeling. A lot of people felt really empty inside, and that felt very apparent. Vraska's the same. And also Elspeth was just like a statue in stone and like had no humanity now that she's an angel. All that stuff was pretty interesting. But those are the most interesting parts. The rest of the things that happened didn't matter, and I didn't care about any of that stuff. The
Yeah,
only things I cared about were those little things.
it felt a little one-dimensional to me too. Like every character is just this one thing, and that's all.
Well, that
That's all
is
they
true.
have going on.
I mean, how
Uh,
many times can we get alluded to the fact that Narset doesn't know whether Elspeth is her like friend or like coworker or
yeah,
whatever?
that happened way too many times. The other thing that the writer loved to do with Narset is like, oh, but I can't let myself finish that thought. It'd be like, what happens if the dragon that's attacking the temple, comes upon the uninitiated students who haven't learned as much? Oh, but I can't think about like I can't finish that
Right,
thought. And
right.
it's like you finished that thought. You
It's
know what's
done.
happening. Like
It's over.
you've thought it. When
Yeah.
you think of something, you're like, yeah, that dragon would kill them. Yeah, you thought of that. Like, and it just happened like 5 times in the first or second story, and I was like, is this like meant to annoy me, or like why does Narset keep going
Well,
like thinking about something and then be like, I can't think
no, I
about
can't think about that.
how that
I
would
can't
end,
think
and
of
it's
those
like you
things.
you already did.
It's already done.
Definitely already did.
You already did. No, I agree with that, and also like the amount of times where it seems like, as Narset's going to fight this, like to rush into battle, it's like, oh, did I leave enough information about the laws that need to be put into place?
Yeah.
So that if I die, like everyone's constantly thinking about how if they die, what's going to happen? And it's like, none of these people are going to die. We know they're not going to die. Like, obviously, I know you're trying to make the stakes really high, but everyone reading knows that they're not going to die in this battle because this is not big enough. It's not important enough. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And Ugin comes down and doesn't even kill Sarkin, right? Does he kill Sarkin? He just
I
like,
think he does. I thought he did. He shot like ghost fire at him and incinerated him, I thought. But
I guess I read the story, did not realize that Sarkin was murdered.
now
Because the
maybe
plan
50-50. He's either
because
dead or he's not. He's
because the
Schrodinger's Sarkin.
the other plan was just, hey, let's go talk to him, right? Like Johnny's like, we'll go talk to him and he'll stop doing
Okay,
this.
let's talk about that because that was great. Because it was like Ajani's like, so apparently Sarkhan helped Ajani, which we learn about.
Yeah,
Like right in the crux of the battle, Ajani's like, no wait, Sarkhan's a nice guy. He helped me that one time. He saved me from a dragon. Like,
yeah, from a dragon.
What?
Wait,
When did
so
that happen, and why would that happen?
I think it happened like he's trying to basically say that like Sarkin did a Johnny planeswalk to Tarkir the first time he planeswalked, and then he was saved, or what? That doesn't make any sense because
I thought like after all of this, when Ajani first came to Tarkir
To
this
Tarkir.
time, he was probably being mopey and weak, and some dragon was going to kill him. And Sarkhan stopped it somehow.
oh, I thought it was like years ago. Well, because the other thing was like Sarkin killing a dragon, I was getting like a bunch of red flags. Like,
Right. Like he wouldn't
why would
do that.
Sarkin kill a dragon? Like, obviously he was, doing the ritual or whatever. And
Yeah.
Tai Gam is also evil. Okay, that's one thing I wanted to say. Did you know that Sarkin was evil?
Oh yeah.
I just thought he was a misguided idiot, kind of.
I think he's like a fanatic, right? He's just a
Yeah.
fanatic. Again, he's one-dimensional. He cares about his dragons and loves dragons and wants dragons to rule the world and wants to be a dragon. So I actually thought this was all fine from like. I think the first time you meet him, he's like crazy. Like it's kind of.
Got it. Okay.
I think
That
Sarkhan
makes-
the Mad is his first card, right?
Oh, right. That makes a
Like
lot
he's
more
a
sense.
nut. He's
and
like
his
a weird,
old-
crazy dragon nut.
Yeah, because his first art is like he's Rakdos or something, and he's like, and it makes more sense that he's just like this wild, crazy dude from Mardu who just like goes and just tries to figure out how to get these dragons back.
Yeah.
Which makes sense why Narset's against him. Just like as he's been built up year after year after year, and he fights in War of the Spark and all that stuff, he doesn't feel like the same. Do you know what I mean? And so, as a player who didn't really play through Tarkir and missed a lot of that stuff, he just seemed like this cool dragon dude who did dragon stuff. And now I'm like, oh, you're bad though. I didn't know that. Like, how did I, as a very enfranchised Magic player, not realize that Narset and Sarkin did not get along? You know what I mean? Because it got confusing because Zurgo and Ojutai are friends apparently. So like, it was just one of those weird things that like. That was just a blind spot that I never really thought about. And be like, oh, this is the bad guy of the story. I thought he was just like the good guy who accidentally did this terrible thing and ruined Khan's draft format by fate reforging it into Dragons of Tarkir. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was just this funny, goofy thing that happened. But
that's the thing, right? Johnny's like, I could talk to him and is saying, I know you're a good person. Could you help me that one time? Like, there's a good man in there. And the author gives you the impression that it's kind of starting to work. And then Narset's like, no, there's not. He's a fucking asshole. He even killed his own dragon and ate his heart. What a bitch. And then Sarkin's like, gets him all mad again. Johnny's going to be like, dude, like, just don't say anything.
Narset, it was fucking working. Girl, what the hell?
Chill. Like, I know you don't like him, but come on.
Yeah.
Everyone's lives are at stake here.
Yeah, because also
because she's like, he's not a good person.
Well, no, it's the same. There's Elspeth did the same shit where she's like, I thought she was gonna pull a Men in Black, because like Sarkin is a dragon for like most of the story, and so she's diving down into his mouth or whatever he's gonna like, and I thought she was gonna go inside of him and break him up from the inside. Like
right
at the end of Men in Black.
It did kind of allude to that, because she was constantly like darting in and around him, and then the final confrontation is like darting down his throat.
And she's like she's like in his mouth. I think she's like holding his jaws open as Johnny's trying to talk to him, because she decides that she's also going to help try to reason with him. It's like, Elspeth, this is awful. I don't know what you're doing.
Weird plan.
Weird plans, man. God, I don't know.
But then Sarkin, I guess, gets all his dragon buddies together and decides we have to go destroy that temple. Like,
yeah, it is.
How did that happen?
Yeah, like things like that. I'm just like, whatever. I don't really know what's going on. It doesn't matter to me. But it's just, this all felt like filler, and I guess Nicol Bolas is back. You know, that's the big thing.
Right. The big thing is like Jace shattered, but is now forming in droplets of water at the beginning of time, of course. And Nicol Bolas is out, and that's the part I was wondering. Like, so Nicol Bolas, we learned also kind of maybe it's just in the meditation realm, or I don't know, but he seemed to have lost his memory. He didn't know his own name. He didn't know. He could like recognize the people that were showing up, but he didn't. 100% remember where he knew them from.
He wasn't like filled with rage. It wasn't just like the prisoner from the war.
Yeah. He was back to his like mustache twirling bad guy ways.
Which is good, because I liked him the best when he was like that.
Yeah, and the part I'm wondering is like they got called to the temple. So Narset and Elspeth were in the Crucible of Dragons or whatever, and they had a voice tell them, go here, there's a temple here.
Oh, sure.
That's where you seek the information you seek or whatever. Who was that voice? Because at first, when we were coming to the climax, I thought it was Jace, because Jace was sitting there waiting for him. But his plan didn't require them at all. In any
he also
capacity.
didn't want them there, like in a.
And he seemed like surprised they were there. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing here? So it doesn't make sense that it would be Ugin, because as soon as they got there, Ugin was like, "The fuck you doing here? Get out!"
Like no one should be here ever. Like
so I guess it had to be Nicol Bolas, right? Like this was his way of escaping.
I guess that could make sense.
To bring all of this chaos together. So who knows how much of this was him, right? Like
that's true. Did like him just like, I did not remember the voice necessarily at all. Like a voice calling someone to a temple. My mind immediately is just like, it's something. I don't know.
Yeah. There's some sort of like railroading MacGuffin type deal that like you don't have time to come up with a more interesting reason they can.
But I like the theory of it's Nicol Bolas and he's pretending he doesn't know all the things is interesting. That's a much stronger choice for sure. So let's go with that.
Like this is his scheming, like coming together to break himself out somehow, and whether that includes the Dragonstorm's or not in some degree. Like he might know his brother has to kind of control those things and how much influence he had on Jace's stupid plan. Like that's what I'm telling myself to
Hmm.
make some of this be like, okay, maybe it's just some master manipulator at work making all these people do dumb things.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess
A
I
lot of
guess
people did dumb things, is what we're saying. Yeah.
right. And most of it didn't matter, and there was a lot of like teenage angst going on that also didn't end up mattering. And so it's kind of like if we're gonna have a story set on Tarkir that's 7 stories long, I would have preferred, and it's all filler and fluff.
Hmm.
That's fine, but I would have preferred to like learn more about the clans on Tarkir, because only 2 clans even featured in this,
Hmm.
and the clans didn't even really like Abzan, I guess, featured the most
Yes.
because
We
they
talked to
kind of
them.
helped with the fight,
That, yeah. Well,
and
we
like
also ran into them and
the
they
temple
captured
happened to be
Narset
in
and
their
everything.
lands.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like the clans weren't really a part of this story. It was
No,
all about planeswalkers and
it's
them
always,
feeling shitty that they don't have their spark anymore.
which we've
I was like,
had
that's we've had a
so
lot of
many
that.
stories. A lot of those
And we've had
stories.
that for characters like I ostensibly would care more about than these ones. Like
Yeah.
I don't really care how Sarkhan feels about it. I barely care how Narset feels about it.
Like,
Johnny,
do you know what's more interesting? Like, I just think as a point is that, like, if we are going to be in a world where people are upset with things that happen, like a Johnny coming in and being like, oh, mopey, mopey, I'm such a great guy, and I can't believe that I killed Jaya, who's one of my best friends, and blah, blah, blah. And everyone's like, no, it's okay. You feel better. What if he was fighting really hard, being like, no, I am not like that. And then somebody
yeah,
else under Phyresis is like, no, you fucking knew that you were doing that because I was under the same shit. And I felt the thing that you were feeling and you wanted to do that. And I
right.
also wanted to do that, but I ended up not doing it. But you did. Like, that's a much more
Because you
compelling
suck.
story. Well, it's
Yeah,
also just like those are real interactions that are interesting as opposed to
right.
just a constant, like, oh, all of us are good guys, but sometimes we get turned bad, like
Yeah.
there could be more actual drama between if you want to go into the planeswalker thing, which obviously we do all the time. But like, why are there's not more friction between these people that's like real as opposed to just people getting in their own way constantly. It's always somebody is
Right.
like getting in their own way and and if they can overcome their own emotions or their feelings about something that happened. Everyone's trying to, no, but you'll be good. Nissa, you don't, or like whatever. Chandra, you don't have to win the race for me because of, and just blah, 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 all that stuff. Like
Yeah.
if we can, if we can get to a real moment like that, it'd be much more interesting. Which I think the stuff with Vraska and Jace felt closer to that, where it
Yeah,
was
it was
like he
closer.
has a plan that he thinks is going to be what makes it everything better, and Vraska's telling him everything's fine right now. Don't do any of that stuff. Nobody's
Right.
telling you, and his own hubris is pushing him towards it, and then he obliterates himself or whatever. So that was the
And
most interesting part.
she was also like you're doing some awfully bad stuff to
Hmm.
try to enact this plan. And he's like, yeah, well, you did that
It,
shit too. Like you're
hmm.
no stranger to doing bad things for the greater good. So why are you giving
Exactly.
me shit?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh damn, this
And
is a real
and they
hostile
have
fight here.
and it's like he thinks that he's doing the best thing for Loot even though he's putting Loot under and like
Basically torturing the poor kid.
essentially, and it's like Loot is afraid of him and Vraska's trying to tell him but he refuses to believe that, and he's like, he's my kid too, and they're all that fight, all that stuff was the most interesting to me just because
Yeah.
that's what I want from the story. I want drama as opposed to fight, like two things fighting each other and oh, our friends came and helped us defeat the thing. I don't, that's not interesting to me.
Or
And
our friends came and helped us last a little long. And after the third or fourth time
mhm,
that a different character said, "We're not here to win the fight. We're just here to stall for time, or like
It's like stop for
Elspeth's
what?
Elspeth's perspective had that, then Narset's perspective had that, and then
And
Ajani's, and I was
Johnny
like,
and the
okay,
Abzan.
what do they think they're stalling for? Like this was the help. The
Yeah,
help has arrived. Like what
exactly.
in their minds are they still stalling for? And then Ugin appears out of nowhere, and like all the dragons run away, and he freaking I think incinerates Sarka. But it's just like it's it, whatever. Obviously, you knew something was going to happen because it was the seventh story and it was coming to an end.
Yeah, as
And
you're
it
scrolling and you're
seemed
like,
like
what's
they were
gonna
still
happen?
fucked.
Yeah.
They kept telling me that they're just buying time. So, like, obviously, and I know Ugin must be in the story because he's a card
Hmm.
and he must be more than what he was so far. So, like, probably Ugin's going to show up and fix everything. And that's what happened. So, it was just like I don't understand why. Like Elspeth, maybe. Elspeth's like, I'm just gonna zip around, like, you know, annoy this dragon and stall for time while reinforcements come. That made sense to me. I didn't have an issue with her thinking that.
Hmm.
Narset was then like, okay, I guess it's the same thing. You're both stalling for time. But then the reinforcements arrive, and then they said it again. We're stalling for time. And I'm like, what are we stalling for now? Like, there's
For
just
the
nothing.
story to
There's nothing
end.
else.
They
Yeah.
know, okay,
Yeah.
we're stalling. At some point, the story's going to end and everything will be fine. And so the
Yeah.
characters are stalling. It's a meta
Narset's
moment,
like
Jeff. You
accepting
see?
death. I'm like, what
Yeah.
is happening?
This is always a thing with these magic stories where I kind of wish they would leave a little bit more up to interpretation from us as readers, which is the, like, all of the stuff with character things between people. Like, just Narset talking about how, oh, I think more of Elspeth's humanity was taken away when she became an angel and all that kind of stuff. Like, those are all really interesting points if they weren't told to me, you know,
Right.
which we get often.
Right.
But kind of, that was one thought. But then ultimately, through this whole thing, I think that the most interesting story that we can get from this entire thing was the Dragonstorm. Like, why are
Mhm.
we always coming here at the very end of stuff where we're trying to wrap things up? Like, why are we not coming in? Like, why isn't the first story Narset getting all the other clan members to go sneak out and then make the Dragonstorm? And that story of all the dragons falling and the spear dragons coming into play and the transition of power. Like, that sounds really cool. I don't know why that we're kind of missing it in just like a glossed
Narset,
over thing at the
Nar,
beginning or whatever.
Narset in the bar was my favorite chapter, and
Mm-hmm.
I was
It's the
like,
first one.
okay, I was like, I might actually, we might be in for a nice ride here. And then it was just, everything was just like monotony. Like, it's just so mundane after that. Like, for some reason, they're detained. Like, what is the whole deal with them spending so much time on them being detained by the
By
Abzan
the
for
Abzan, yeah.
temple happening to be in their lands? Like,
I think I agree
why
with
is
you
this
with like
here?
the first one and the sixth one. It was like the first one and then and then when we get to the meditation realm, then I'm like sick.
When something actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah,
Or just
those
something
those were
interesting.
where
Yeah.
interesting plot was developed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, yeah, it's just why the whole Absan thing, and then like Narset like is about to die, and she's like, "Oh man, I didn't totally like tie up all that bureaucracy I had."
Mm-hmm.
It's like I hope
That's
that
horrible.
doesn't
Horrible.
bother anyone, or like it was, what? Who's thinking that when
Yeah.
they're about to die? Especially someone who has already lamented the bureaucratic nature of her
Mm-hmm.
position in this
Exactly.
story. Like,
I will say that I think the writers did a really good job with the game developers or the R&D, knowing that Mardu would be really strong as well as Teamer, and Abzan would be so horrible. So they had to give Abzan a bit more space in the
got
story
it.
because
Jessica's kind of like pretty good, but not, it's
yeah,
sort of the
yeah.
middle. So
And then Abzan's just garbage. So then they're like, oh, let's make sure we talk about Abzan in the story so nobody gets left out. We can't only hearken on like the Borosi Mardu decks and the Teamer 5-color decks, stuff like that. I think they did a good job with that part, but ultimately, like, Jeff, where does this like rank at our story like rankings? Like, I don't know. This one felt different than the others, and I don't know if I know it wasn't like one of our top ones. Is it one of our worst ones?
So I didn't like this one, but a lot of that came from the weight of expectation. Like there were
That's
promises to
true.
tying up story arcs that were a long time in the making,
That's
and it was a
true.
very unsatisfactory ending that was delivered. So I don't know if that falls solely on this actual story because it's kind of like I guess I just didn't care for the greater arc
Hmm.
that was threading through these stories. I think like Jace's motivations, I like his motivation as
Hmm.
like the maniacal guy desperately trying to cling to the past and like bring
Hmm.
it back. But it doesn't make sense to me that 98% of his plan would be so perfectly thought out and then the last part, the crucial step, would just be winging it and it didn't work. Like
As someone
that
who
felt wild.
procrastinates a lot and thinks about the beginning of stuff and not the ending, I understand that part a little bit. I'm not a mind mage, but I do resonate with I've got
I just
everything
didn't
figured out except for the last 10%, and we'll figure out what that is when we
That's
get there.
the important part.
Yeah.
But this one felt just dumb because it's like the last step is
Do
turn
it.
back time and make everything the way it was before. And like everything else was meticulous just to get to the meditation plane because I don't know, maybe that would work. Like, I don't know, that felt like, what
Yeah.
is this
Well, I
plan? And
also think like that's his cockiness, thinking like all I have to do is get there, and then I can do it when I get there. And he thinks like it's going to be easy. I'm going to have Ugin's powers from the gem thing. I'll be in the meditation realm. I can do it when I get there. I just need to get there. And then he gets there and he's like, I can't do it. Basically, he starts
yeah.
to do it, and then it breaks him apart.
Yeah,
Which
I get
obviously he
it.
didn't
I
plan
feel
for.
like I just feel like I was promised more by the way they wrote this into the
Sure. I mean, like
story arc.
I agree that this story, just in general, I thought this was going to be the actual culminate. Like in every story that we get for Magic, it happens at this time of year, right? Like the end of the story, if there's a big one, War of the Spark happened at this time of the year. We had March of the Machine at this time of the year. So I'm just conditioned that this is going to be the big pinnacle. This is the important thing that
But
happens.
like,
This
what
is
are the unresolved arcs that are still that we still have, right? Like, this is the pinnacle, isn't it?
I think it's the pinnacle of like the Dragonstorm stuff, but there's something that's telling me that like Edge of Eternities is bigger than this, you know? So like just the way that it looks like optically, just because it's space. I don't know. Like they're in this transition of like moving from like their because they try to finish everything at this point of the year because of the standard cycle, so that when we get to when Edge of Eternities is, that's like when standard rotates, but they have to change it so that it's at the beginning of the year and the finales in like November or October or whatever, because they're going to change standard cycle to be January coming into like 2027 or whatever.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is like, do we still have unresolved long-term question marks?
That's my question. Is I don't know. This story made it feel like there is maybe something
But I mean,
because
questions like, do you have questions about the long-term story? Like, oh, I don't have an answer to this yet. I don't feel like there's any of that left where I'm like, oh, that will get solved next time. I feel like all the
that are like
threads
softballs for sure.
that I was wondering about got tied out. Maybe we'll learn more and like we'll get more satisfaction next time. But I'm not sitting here like, oh, there was
I
this
guess you're right.
thread that
Okay,
they
I
tied in that I don't know the answer to now.
okay. All
Um,
right. I see what you're saying. Yes. So like we figured out what was happening with like Jason, why he was trying to do the stuff with loot, because that was the end goal, and that's why loot was important.
Yeah.
Nicol Bolas is released, Ugin's back, and Tarkir is safe from Dragonstorms. And that's essentially, and Sarkin is, well, we don't really know. Maybe he died, maybe he didn't. Maybe that I just like skimmed over that part and missed it. But
Also, is Nissa like obliviated or whatever? Or sorry, Chandra? They seem to imply that in this one that he like wiped her mind or something. Um,
No, he just like fucked her up really badly, but he didn't like. Right? She was just like. She wasn't mind wiped though, right? She was just like.
that's what it seemed like. I didn't think so either, but in this conversation that Vraska and Jace had, it seemed
Where they
like
were just kind of.
she was suggesting he like wiped her mind or something.
Oh, I
That
thought that.
happened? I don't remember that.
I thought that they were just insinuating that he like fucked her up enough that she couldn't come get him. Basically, that was like
Yeah, because
like,
she was fine
physically.
at the end, right? This sort of.
Well, she was like physically healing, but like yes, she mentally she was there, right? She didn't like forget who Nissa was or whatever.
Okay, I thought it was going crazy. I was like, wasn't Chandra like pretty much fine?
No,
But
she was fine.
It
She was
seemed
fine.
like the way it was written, it was like you broke her brain, and you're going to do the same to Lute. And it was like, is that what happened?
Yeah. To be fair, it's not the first time that like when we change authors does this happen,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of those intricate little things, and obviously reading fantasy can be kind of a minefield sometimes, where you're just like, it gets confusing because when people use metaphors in fantasy, you can't really tell if it's actually happening or not.
Right. Yeah. So I guess to bring it back, like to the question of did we like this one? I think, or where does it rank? I think that's my greater criticism is like of the story arc itself, not necessarily of this particular author's job
Yes.
with this Tarkir story.
Which I picked up on when you were talking about it. Like, if this was the caliber of like the beginning of a story, like as far as like the story beats, not necessarily what happened, but like
Yeah.
we liked the first one, kind of annoying, like not a bunch of it stuff happened. Sixth one's great, seventh one was kind of disappointing. If this was like the beginning of a story, we'd be like, yeah, sure. It could easily be like the stuff in the middle didn't really matter, and then we got to something that was kind of interesting, and we'll see where it goes from here. We could be like, yeah, sure, okay. Bloomborough could be a good example. Oh, that was kind of interesting. There's some stuff, but like none of it's going to really matter in the future except for this one little bit. But because it was the culmination of everything, which the fact that I was left not really sure whether this was the culmination or not is a huge knock.
You need like a checklist to be like, oh yeah, these were the open threads, and I guess technically they did get resolved, so it is the culmination.
And introducing a Johnny into this, who's not really a loose thread, that like nobody really cared that he like talked to Nahiri for a little bit in some story, and then like whatever, but like I don't know. Maybe I'm not old enough to care about a Johnny
was there. So maybe more is coming, to your point, in the next one. That's like because they started a new thread, I guess, with a Johnny. But yeah, no, how we would feel about it if it were a beginner story is a really great way to frame it, because a lot of the criticisms I have are not necessarily this story's fault, which is like the culmination of the threads was not satisfactory to me, but also like it's just enough with the planeswalkers being upset that they lost their spark, or that their friend lost their spark. Like if this was the first time we were seeing that, it's a little easier to accept. But when it's like, we've done this, guys, you know, so how much of that is actually this story's fault? Like if that to your point, if that happens right after the whole Phyrexian invasion, we're not tired of the planeswalkers being sad about the sparks, like, you know. But at this point, I'm like, that's enough of this. This is all like planeswalkers reacting to sparks in a very one-dimensional way. It's like the whole story.
Which I am totally fine with planeswalkers being upset by their sparks or their life changing and all that stuff. But I just want to be at stage 3 or 4. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like there is initial feelings, and then there's the furthest ones. We're like, yes, obviously Ajani's upset about Jaya, but that happened so
Yeah.
long ago. I want
Right.
him to be in a different stage of grief,
I know that we're
right?
seeing a Johnny for the first time, but presumably, the way timelines
He
work, a
has
Johnny has
has gone
grown,
through some
or he's
stuff.
yeah,
And if another character is trying to push him back to an earlier stage that he's already passed, it's a much more interesting conversation.
yeah,
However, that's not what we got. Because if we're going to go deep on character stuff, we have to be able to do that. Obviously, I know there's a bunch of different things that go on, and it's basically impossible to be able to do what we want from the stories.
yeah,
But
and they don't have enough words. But if you don't have
no,
enough words, like, don't do it. Just
don't
focus on something
introduce.
else.
Yeah, I guess it just kind of makes Johnny feels the most shoehorned into this. Like,
Right.
does that just mean that he's important later, basically? Like,
Here's about as shoehorned as possible.
yeah.
Like apparently, all like he's just there. He has some sort of relationship with the Abzan. Sarkhan saved him at some point. Apparently,
From
like
something
it's
that was,
just like this
yeah,
is just really wedged in.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. That was the worst part. Um,
but I think the writer, like, I don't have any issues with the way they wrote.
no, I honestly I thought that her name is Cassandra Ka, and I really actually enjoyed a lot of the just there were pieces of the actual story that I really liked the descriptions of, and I thought that it was well threaded through. Like I don't know
Yeah,
if we've had a lot of good authors who've like we've had authors who've talked about the same character in nice different ways, right? As we've gone through a story, but it kind of felt like this author, like Ka, was able to keep a thread continuously through all the different characters that was all
right.
similar, which was kind of the shell of a person and how there are different versions of being a shell of a person. And so those descriptors were really interesting, and those paragraphs were fantastic, I thought. However, the plot stuff was what I didn't like. But
Right. I quite liked their prose. And I thought it's not always easy to, there's a couple things we've noted before, but it's not always easy to have an action sequence and make it clear what's happening, which I thought they did a really good job of, and have characters' emotions, even though I'm critical of like what emotions those characters were necessarily feeling, to have those emotions be clearly communicated. That was definitely done. And I think basically what I'm saying is like most of my criticism of the writing is not necessarily the author's fault. Like
right,
they
yes,
they had to
as
conclude the plot lines in these ways. They had to I'm sure they were told to focus on this like planeswalkers losing their spark whole issue. Like a Johnny, I'm sure had to be there for whatever reason. Like a lot of the stuff that we're critiquing, I don't think is actually the author's fault. And I think with what I imagine the author was probably given for this, I think they did a good job.
yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that it's also this difficult task, as we've talked about multiple times, where as an author you're kind of coming into this subject, like if you're newer to it, it's a difficult task to try to pick up all this history, and sometimes you can feel the history lessons that they're kind of spouting at us, where they're just kind of rambling off things that have happened in the past that they were part of their either spreadsheet or things that they had read to make it feel like they've been a part of this community the whole time.
That get realistic. They asked ChatGPT to give them a summary of what has happened in
All right,
the
well, Jeff,
Magic
we're
the
not all
Gathering
you.
story.
We're not all you. But I would expect them to read the stories that were important. Now, did they use an AI program to find these stories that were going to be important? Maybe, but they
And
probably.
summarize
I
them.
would. I would assume that they would have read those. They're short enough; they could have read them. But anyway, as far as an actual rating for this, on a rating scale from Midnight Hunt to like, what's the best one we've done? Like,
Oof.
I don't know, All Will Be One? I liked All Will Be One.
All Obi-Wan was good. Trying to think. I feel like there was one recently that we liked.
Duskborn was good. I liked
I
Bloom Burrow
yeah,
a lot, but you weren't part of that. So,
I think I was thinking of Duskborn.
Duskborn.
I liked Duskborn.
Hmm.
Did I like it better than All Obi-Wan? Let's put All Obi-Wan at the top.
That was like the tournament style. You're outside and you slowly go inside, and then it felt very Empire Strikes Back, but it was like every chapter was a different level as you get closer and closer to
Yeah,
your goal.
yeah, that was cool.
Like,
That one was
I,
a good one.
I thought that worked really well, and then slowly you start losing people on your way down. Where it's
Yeah,
like
that one felt like a movie. Like that one, it was
felt
designed like a
yeah,
movie would play out. Yeah.
like I really liked the way that all broke down, and then Jace is slowly turning into Phyrexian, and right as he's grabbing the Silex, it's like not going to work, and so Elspeth has to grab it, and she blows up, and all that stuff happens. And then we're left with a oh shit, things are going bad, and then March of the Machine was such a letdown ish. It was just all squished together that like Obi-Wan just felt great. It was like we're on a mission, and here's the mission, and it was exciting the whole time. And Midnight Hunt was so confusing and bizarre and didn't matter, and ended with the cliffhanger that didn't matter, and like it just all is just a waste of time.
It's like I don't know if these are wolves, werewolves,
Mm-hmm.
if that's a person who's fighting, which entities are currently battling each other.
Yeah, it was just a
Why any of
mishmash
this
of
happened? Yeah.
stuff. I would say that this is like, I don't know if it's smack dab in the middle, but it's probably like if Midnight Hunt is a 1 and All Be One is like a 5. This is probably like a 2.5, maybe.
I was gonna say 2.5. Yeah, this is like I don't know, like a Crimson Vow, maybe.
Maybe
Or like
it's kind of like a Crimson Vow. I think you're right. Like Crimson Vow, as far as like the actual story went, was very. Almost all of it was horrible. Even the idea was bad. Except for I think there was literally half of a chapter that I thought was like perfection, and then
Right.
the rest was just horrendous.
And a lot of it was like random stuff that didn't end up mattering, that just
Yeah.
existed.
A lot of
It's like,
battle
yeah.
crap, a lot of monologuing, and then
Right.
one moment where Soren had this amazing epiphany, like as he was kind of dying, but not really. It was really interesting, and then the rest of it was just horrendous. It was just so bad. God, yeah, that one. You know what? I think I might have liked this one more than
Yeah,
as we talked
well,
about
Crimson
it.
Vow was bad for a different reason because it was like, yeah, you described it perfectly. Like they just go to this haunted house and battle some ghosts for some
Yeah.
reason. It's like at least this one attempted character development in place of random meaningless battles,
Exactly.
which I guess I should give it brown like extra points for. So
Yeah.
because like I don't know, it's the equivalent of like in a video game when there are just random enemies that are so easy for you to beat that it's like why did they even put this here? You know,
Yeah.
like the
Well,
and
it's
you get marginal experience for it, and
it's so
I don't know,
funny
people like
because
to
like
grind it and just fight those things over and over and over again until they level up. I don't know, but it's just like
I'm one of those people that like just love fighting the things, and I love when they're easy as hell. Like I get to I get to do the thing that I like doing, and I didn't lose any health, and it's great. I really enjoy
yeah,
that.
but
Actually.
I don't want to read about that in my story, you know. Whereas
Oh,
it's
it's
just
true.
like,
Oh, sorry. You're right.
you know
You're
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I understand. I don't agree with the like. I'm
yeah. With
always
how I
like,
feel.
why are these here? They're so annoying. Like, why am I fighting a level 3 Rattata at this point? But
I guess in Pokemon, because there's a whole change of sequence and stuff. I get that. I'm thinking of
like I
Final
think they
Fantasy
literally
VII,
had
where I'm
items
just
to ward that shit off. But
they did.
but yeah, it's like I don't want to read about someone's like lame encounter against ghosts that were really easy to beat. You know, like, just like why was this a whole chapter?
A whole chapter. All right, so maybe a better question. As we said, that it was like a 2.5. How does it rank up over the last story we read, which was Aether Drift?
If I had to say right now, I'd say maybe I liked Aether Drift a little better.
Okay. All right. I think I probably agree with you just as far as like Aether Drift had a lot of stuff happening, but also there were some other funnier moments, some other interesting things that went on where this one felt like there was really two things. And at least in Aether Drift we got to talk about like what's his face's hot chocolate and stuff. You know, there's some weird, bizarre shit that was going on that was like, what is happening with this guy? You know, this didn't have very much
Don't
of that.
forget about the guy who got to build the stadium purely due to
Yeah.
nepotism, and the whole thing collapsed.
I mean, that's story beat. That's a little chunk that I'd love reading, right? That was interesting and a new aspect of the world I hadn't thought about. Like the world building
Yeah,
with that, even though it's kind of stupid or whatever, was cool.
a
Where
little
this
cheesy, but like
Yeah,
I
but
enjoyed
like
it.
it's like a good cheese. Like
Yeah,
it's good every once in a while, but you can't be sustained on. It's like the cheese whiz that you spray on your crackers. Like it's fun
yeah,
for a road trip, but you can't have that all the time. Like that's not cheese really, but you enjoy it when you get it.
yeah.
That's what it kind of was like. Where this one felt like there was still a lot of air. There's just
I
so
think
much air.
the difference to me was like Aether Drift had, Kaladesh, and it had um Amonkhet, and it had Muruganda,
Muruganda, yeah,
and
and it's also Avishkar. Sorry, I'm just sorry. Just
yes,
right,
right,
yes.
Avishkar. But it also like had those planes. Like I met characters from those planes. I got a little bit of comedy, a little bit of story, a little bit of like, the character of those planes. This one, it's like there are the cons, or the different, you know, what are they even called? But the different tribes are
Yeah,
technically all there in the world, but that I didn't get any of that. I didn't get any Tarkir from this. So
that's
it's
true.
like,
It didn't feel super Tarkiri, but at the same time, like I hate it when we just go to places just to say we went there. You know what I mean? Like I think in
yeah, but
Kamigawa we did that, where it's like, oh yeah, we had a chapter where we went to the swamp so we could talk to the rats because we have to talk to the rats because they're that's part of the plane or whatever, but it didn't matter.
yeah, that's fair.
So that would be
There's definitely a
annoying.
balance to be had,
Yeah,
right? Like we
but they
gotta move
could
the
have.
story along and do it in a way that's interesting. But like none of the characters are even from Tarkir except Sargon, who just gets
Basically,
like the worst role. Like I don't know, was not a Tarkir story,
yeah.
other than I guess this is where
I
dragons.
think that is a
Basically, this is
really
where
that's
Ugin's meditation realm is. That's
it's
it.
not even where it is. It's just there's an
Well,
omen
it's the
path
omen
that
path to it. Yeah, is
yeah
there.
happens to be there. So yeah, I think that's the best thing that we can kind of summarize this with is that this is not a Tarkir story.
Yeah.
Like this is called Tarkir lore and loggers, but we're not talking about Tarkir lore. We're talking about magic lore of just random kinds. So yeah,
I
absolutely
guess
agree with
Narset is
that.
from Tarkir, so what I said is totally true.
I mean,
But the
she
main
is,
character
but
is
like,
from Tarkir, but like
does it really
it
like?
didn't have to be her, right? Like this could have been. There was nothing special about Narset in the story other than
Whoa.
she was from Tarkir.
I mean, like, yeah, she doesn't have any special specific powers or whatever, but I agree with that for sure. That's probably our
So it's
closing thoughts. Like, it's just not a
yeah, it
Tarkir
was
story.
medium. It was medium, but
A
because it
little bit
was,
less than medium, I'd say.
but
Yeah.
when it's a medium culmination, that's ends up being more disappointing than
Yeah. Like, Bloomborough felt medium, but in a great way. In a breath of fresh air kind of way. Like, oh, it's all self contained. Almost nothing outside of it mattered. And there's barely anything that ties to
there
the
were
other
very
stories.
few Avengers cameos.
It was just so nice. There's like Ral Zarek is there looking for Jace. Oh yeah, what the fuck happened to Ral Zarek? He was literally looking for Jace for that entire story. Never shows up again. Okay, sick.
But you just didn't find him. See, that's realistic.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes people are searching for people and they just
And
don't
they
find
just don't find them. You're right. You're right.
I don't know if it's a story I necessarily want to read, but
Yeah,
it's true.
that's true. I guess my final thoughts for this is kind of like this is the end of Magic story stuff. Yeah, being so forefront, I guess. The Magic story will be taking a back seat just in the nature of we will be getting half as much as we used to. I guess technically that's not true. We're getting like 3/4 of what we used to, because if there were 4 sets, we would have got 4 stories. There's 6 sets, we're getting 3 stories. So I guess it's not nearly as pulled back as what I'm saying, but I think that it's as far as the forefront of the importance of, hey, our big set has to land because it's the culmination of this whole thing. I just don't know if we're going to get big story sets anymore. Like it will just be probably pockets of stuff, which could actually be a good thing because we tend to kind of be disappointed by the big stuff.
Right.
Like
it promises so much.
Yeah, March of the Machine, disappointed. War of the Spark, that was a horrible story. Like, that was a novel that almost all of us returned to the bookstore because it was just disgraceful. I think I gave
They probably had a whole like slot where it just says War of the Spark return.
War of the Spark, just return it. I gave mine away at a whatever public library, public library, sorry, little libraries, the ones in people's like yards.
Oh yeah,
I just threw mine in there, be like, somebody else can read this, but I'm never going to read this again.
They're like, oh man,
God, not another copy of War of the Spark. I have so many of those.
Chuck into the fire.
Yeah, but that one was, well, we can get into that another time, but as it's horrible. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with Edge of Eternities. If we got some stories for Final Fantasy, that would be pretty interesting. I don't think that's going to happen just because I can't even imagine what they would try to put out. But
it doesn't seem worth it to even
talk about it if it was a whole thing. But I mean, if Jace ended up going to the Final Fantasy universe, I would be interested in reading that, I know that that's not what's going to happen, especially because all the stuff with Marvel, but I don't know.
Cloud is Chase.
That would be crazy because, well, Cloud is a weird guy, to be fair. As I've been playing more Final Fantasy games, Cloud is he's a weird dude. I'm like, okay.
Jace is a weird dude. So
yeah, they kind of work out. All right, so maybe he gets reconstituted as Cloud. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting stuff. All right, Jeff. That's basically, it's time for last call. We've beat this story into the dirt. Obviously, we've been drinking different beers, so we're not really rating beers this evening. So yeah, we don't really have a last call.
Closing time.
Yeah, I guess it's closing time. You're right. If you want to talk to us, you can always reach us at Arena Regulars on Instagram and Blue Sky.
You can also find us on Arena itself, username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg. That is Zeul. Or sorry, I'm not at Zulberg anymore. I forgot. Whoa, I had so much beer. I changed my handle. It's _Zach at TikTok and Instagram, as well as Blue Sky. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is on our Discord channel. I go by Regular Jeff on the Discord channel. Come tell us all the stuff that we missed in this story. We'd love to hear it, but also just join our community. We run some pretty awesome arena cube drafts. Mm-hmm. We talk about limited. We talk about constructed. We talk about Spider-Man. So come on and hang out. The link is in the show notes.
We talk about the lack of Spider-Man. I think that might be more of what we're talking about. But yeah, if you like the show, please leave us a review on Spotify. Follow us on Apple Podcasts and leave us a review there as well. Go to YouTube, leave a comment. It means a lot. All those things are great and they help the podcast grow. And I hope that you would like to do that. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that all of those mysterious dragons appearing from everywhere, it was Ugin, I guess. Or not Ugin? Ugin forgot. It's not a big deal.
Good. All right, that's fine.